Gosh, this episode is a tearjerker, so grab the tissues. Business coach Gabe Moore shares his incredible journey through adversity. But I think what's most inspiring about his story is the self-mastery, the self-leadership that he has and that he shares with others on how to overcome adversity and reframe things that happen throughout our lives. Let's have a listen. Gabe, why business coaching for you?
Why business coaching? So I've got a pretty unique story. I'm not entirely sure about our timing on this, so I'm going to be concise as I can. I've owned 4 businesses prior to this. So I'm a previous business owner, and I actually don't come from corporate America. I come from blue collar America. And I was able to take a lot of that into what I do today, but that doesn't really, that's not the why. That's more like my experience, right? And the why is pretty profound. In 2014, I started a purposeful, personal, and professional development journey. And it started with a lot of reading and something as simple as just a morning routine. But Michelle, prior to that, there was a lot going on in my life that was bad. I come from a place of financial ruin, poverty, obesity, drug addiction, and a lot of other things where I made a lot of bad choices. And I needed a big change in my life. And that's what happened in 2014. Everything started to change. And I really started to take control. My previous divorce, I got custody of my children, and they started to grow as well along with me as I unlocked my own potential. And in 2018, in our construction company, I decided that I was going to start a slogan, and it was called We Build People. And We Build People came about because of all of the things that I was learning. I wanted to make sure that I had the ability to share that with as many people as I possibly could. So I implemented it into our construction business, and we really started to go to work on our crews and our employees. And I was being effective. It was actually working. However, apparently it was a scarcity mindset at that time because it wasn't enough. Right. And I was like, I needed to upgrade it. I needed to figure something out to make it better. Before I could make a change, though, in 2019, on December 30th of 2019, my 3 boys, Jaden, who was 20 at that time, this is like the beginning of 2020. Okay. Well, you all remember 2020. You remember 2020, Michelle. I know you do. We all do. And it was 2 days before 2020. Jaden, my son, he was 20 at that time, and my identical twins, Noah and Elijah, all decided that they were going to go and drive to, with my blessing, it was, they were driving to an hour and a half away to Jaden's apartment. He was going to the University of Northern Iowa at the time. And on their way there, they stopped at a gas station to use the restroom. And when they left the gas station, as they were crossing the intersection, they were T-boned by a semi-truck. And my son, Jaden, who was driving, was in a coma for a month. So our first January of 2020 for us was spent at the hospital. He went through brain rehabilitation for the next month. So February was brain rehabilitation. And that was very hard. Elijah, the twin that was sitting in the front, he got bruised up really bad, but was out of the hospital in about 3 days. And tragically, we lost the life of my son, Noah, in that accident in the back seat. And that purposeful personal development journey and professional development journey that I started in 2014, really, it was stress tested in the most unbelievable way at this time. And because I had done all that, because I had been preparing and I'd been teaching it to my employees and my crews and even some of our customers at that time, it really kind of equipped me for this challenge. I mean, nothing will ever equip you for something like this. However, because I had that, I didn't fall apart. And if I did fall apart, it was in such short spurts. After everything was over, and I don't want to say over, but after everything kind of calmed down, I went back to work and I was renewed in a way. And I was able to take that energy that I was building up and maybe even a little bit of anger from the accident. I don't really get angry, but I'm sure that was part of something. I was able to use that to really start going harder on the We Build People side. And Michelle, another thing too that happened during that event was our communities all came together for our family in ways that you couldn't even possibly imagine. I mean, you could, I'm sure, I didn't realize that the community could do that. Prior to that, honestly, I was kind of a hermit. I really wasn't in the community. I didn't get out there and network. I didn't do those things. And so when I realized how absolutely important community was, that also reinforced my mission to We Build People. It was going to be a way for me to kind of give back for all of that. Gratitude saved me through all of that. The truck was this far from taking all three of my boys. And a year and a half later, I decided that I needed to make a change. I needed to put myself in a position where I can actually use my business expertise, my past challenges and overcoming those challenges, and my personal and professional development to help other people achieve. And what better way to do that than with business owners? Business owners, if I'm able to actually help them upgrade themselves or unlock their potential, the trickle down effect is massive. It goes into their employees, it goes into the community, and I become an effective part of the community. And so that's kind of been our deal. And when I kind of did some due diligence on this of looking of which coaching organization to join, and when I found Action Coach, nobody beat their level of commitment to community and just helping business owners really achieve those dreams. They kind of actually beat everybody out by a lot. And so it really was an easy choice for me to choose Action Coach. And ever since, it has literally been the best decision I've ever made in my life. Hope that answered the question.
I'm just trying to compose myself from that introduction, Gabe, far out. Like,
Yeah.
Sorry for your loss and that journey that you've been through, and just amazing testament to you for how you've come out of that, experience and tragedy.
Appreciate you. Thank
I'm
you,
not
Michelle.
usually lost for words, but that one floored me. So, I love that you've turned that into inspiration for what you do. How often, when you speak to business owners and you're speaking to people and building great people, I love that. Do you kind of, draw on that kind of experience to kind of inspire action?
It's a great question. I've been gifted. So I said a minute ago that kind of my world's surrounded in gratitude, right? And I've been blessed with some incredible habits that I've been able to build throughout these years. And I think one of the ways that I help my clients tackle things like that is I help them to discover how they can start building habits that are going to just reinforce those goals that they're, really trying to achieve. And, you think of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and just any of these famous absolute all-star athletes. And the one thing that keeps them in common with each other is their mastery of habitualizing the basics. And I think that because I've been able to do that, today, if you were to look under or behind the curtain of my life today, you might even think that I was robotic in a sense. I today personally, just on a personal level, I think I have 18 habits that I do every single day, but all of those are meant to help build me. And then, Michelle, you're very familiar with this and how much a client appreciates congruency when the coach is actually doing the things that the coach is requesting the client to do. That's integrity in its finest, right? That is just, look, I'm not asking you to do as I say. I'm going to help model this for you. And let's rock it together. Okay. Let's just do this together.
Yeah,
So.
I love that. I love that. So, I'd love you to share those 18 steps, if that's okay, those practices, because what I hear a lot, from hosting this podcast is, there's the business side and then there's the personal side. And it's almost like, we've got a system for building business and that requires, education and discipline and practice and learning. But the personal side of it is also just as relevant. So I'd love you to share those 18 things that you do as part of your practice, if that's okay.
I'd love to. I wasn't expecting this, but let's go.
Sorry.
No, not at all. Let's go. I habit stack these habits so that it's very easy for me to remember, but I also use a checklist. Okay. Because the checklist is big, but it gets done. And I do have a morning routine and I have a nightly routine. And the fact that I finish these each day today is mind blowing. Okay. Because of it wasn't always like that, right? I mean, I'd pick at a habit and I'd suck at it for like 3 months and then I'd try to jump back into it. And it was like that. It felt like forever. But for whatever reason, this year, just before this year started, the compound effect has struck. And now not only do I do these habits, but it's easy. That's the thing that's killing me. So the first thing I do is I read. Well, if we're going to get personal here, Michelle, I mean, when I'm on the toilet, I read. That's what I do, okay? I used to scroll. I used to what they call doom scroll, right? No, I'm reading now. I'm a monster on it. I also listen to books too. I had a goal of 52 books last year and I hit 46 books last year. You know, Brad, he says, Jim Rohn, read a book a week, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, challenge accepted. Let's go. Then I pray. I pray and I try to say hi to my son, my late son. And I read a spiritual book for 5 minutes. I literally start the timer and I start reading. I do my morning gratitude journal. And that's followed by my 20 AM statements that I read aloud. I then follow that with a 10-minute meditation. And then I have a process that I do that I call it affirmations, where on the left side of a little book, I write down my 10 goals that I have right this second, whatever's in my head. So I don't go look or find the goal. It's just whatever's in my head this morning. I'm going to write those 10. Typically they're the same. And then on the right-hand side of the book, I write down one thing over and over and over and over and over again, the same thing over and over. Right now, I'm one of the world's leading inspirational speakers. And so I'm writing that over and over again. I think that we're going to pull it off, Michelle. We're going to get it. After that, I review my goals. So I've got 25 goals. So I review those. I just read them. That's all I do is just read them. RAS, right? Keep the RAS, keep it in the head. And then, I go and I review my values, my top 5 values and my principles that are attached to those values. So I say the value out loud and my top values are learning, gratitude, leadership, resilience, and legacy. Those are my top 5. And so I'll read those out loud and then I'll just silently read the principles that I attach to them. And then I'll review my frog. Yeah, we all know what the frog is, right? Okay, I'll review my frog. Okay.
So just share what the frog is for people listening that don't know.
You got it. So the frog is the daily frog. It's the one thing that you need to get done today that is the most important task that you need to do. And typically you're going to write it the day before, which we do. I actually send it to my wife. I send my frog to my wife every evening. And then I have something to review the next day. Now I actually do 3 frogs. I do 3 priorities, but just one is all you need. And just one is all I need to hit this check mark. So if I want to hit the check mark, I got to at least get one. I review my frog and then I write for 10 minutes. Right now I'm trying to write out a speech, an inspirational speech, and it is ugly and it looks like a kindergartner wrote it. But if I just keep plugging away 10 minutes at a time, I'm probably going to get it done. And so I'm just chipping away at the statue, right? Following that, I get on the bike. I got a recumbent bike and I get on that and I do 30 minutes of watching Brad. He'll be proud. I watch every day. Sometimes we go off of Brad a little bit. We go off track a little and we watch something else. But I do 30 minutes of skill training is what it is. 30 minutes of skill training. And then at night, that's my morning routine. Typically it takes anywhere between an hour, 45 minutes to 2 hours. But I'm also up 4 to 4:30 in the morning every morning. So
love that. That is next level discipline.
You're calling it discipline, but it's self-leadership. We'll call it self-leadership.
Good reframe.
Little vocabulary change, right?
Okay. Well, I mean, I think you you are already a, world renowned
Yeah,
motivational
let's go.
speaker. You are
Let's go.
already, you have motivated me already in the first kind of 5 minutes of this podcast. So
Let's go. Let's go. You a real quick story, real sidetrack. So I just started writing this. This is very big for me. Okay. I wanted to start this last year, but for whatever reason, I couldn't do it. I needed to get this company off the ground, in which we did. We're crushing it over here. And so just started it. As soon as I started writing my affirmations, we talk about the law of attraction and the secret and things like that. As soon as I started writing my affirmations, I met a keynote speaker that's been doing it for 25 years. He just happened to pop into my office one day. I don't care who you are. That is the craziest crap that is. And that's happened to me over and over and over and over again, especially when you're geared up to see it, right? You're geared up to see it. Anyway, all right, I'm done with it.
well, I want to know who the motivational speaker was now.
His name, and I don't know how popular it is, but he has done a TED Talk or two TED Talks. His name is Adam Carroll, and we've got coffee that we're going to have in 2 weeks. So we're gonna chat at each other.
Wow, love it.
I'm excited.
Well, thank you for sharing your morning routine. What's your evening routine?
Evening, when I come home, like after this, I'll go home and I will lift weights, typically for about 45 minutes. Then I stretch. I have to stretch upper body one day, lower body the next day, upper body one day, lower body the next day. It's all I do. And that takes anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes. And then I've got a habit to stay under my macros and calories for the day. I've got a calorie goal that I'm trying to hit for nutrition. And then I write my daily frog. That's one of the ones I do. And then I also do my evening journal. And I've got a prompt. I've got a template that asks me questions. What did I learn today? That one's a tough one. And having to answer that at the end of every single day, whoa, get you thinking, get you like focused on it. So, but yeah, I do that.
Amazing. Self-leadership. Love it. Thank
Yeah,
you for sharing that. And amazing
absolutely.
integrity.
I'm also watching Lost again on Netflix. So I want to be clear.
We have time.
See but that's the mindset, right? You hear all that and you say to yourself, there's no time for anything fun. I got news for you. We're on like episode 12 of Lost. We only started it like 2 weeks ago. So we're crushing it.
How do you sleep after watching that?
I sleep like a baby. Seriously. Out. When I'm done, I honestly, Michelle, like it'll be like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And I'm like, I cannot even keep my eyes open. I'm that tired, from just what, and then you coach all day. It's amazing. It is really a gift. It's really a gift.
So from all the business owners you've spoken to, what do you find what do you find the biggest challenge that they face?
I would say belief in themselves that they can actually handle a business that they want. And I'm kind of geared to see that. I'm kind of geared because of who I am. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of the first little probes that I ask about is I try to see if that's even a thing with them, if they're getting in their own way in their mind through fear or any of those things.
I want to unpack that for a sec. The belief in themselves to have the business that they want. I mean, that's really, honestly, is that a big challenge for business owners to have that belief, I can do this?
From one business owner to another, it's been one of my challenges since the day I started my first business. Do I feel powerful enough, confident enough to have the responsibility of running day-to-day operations, let alone a team of people that are going to be depending on me? What training do I have? I don't have any training, so I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready. My role in their life is to help them get ready and help them believe that they can get ready.
So what's an example of a client that you've worked with that you really helped with belief?
You bet. As far as belief goes, I've got a client, he runs a soft washing company, and I know he's going to see this video too, so this will be fun. His name's Connor. And when I first met Connor, one of the very first things that I noticed right away is his intelligence. His intelligence was rather high, but his belief was really low. And I was thinking to myself, okay, because when we get into coaching conversations with people, we don't just take anybody. we try to be as selective as possible. For one, we want a reputation that shows that we get results, and we need good clients to make that happen. And for two, I don't really want to work with bad clients personally, right? I mean, it's a negative suck on our energy. It's very difficult. He was not that. He was not that. I could tell right away that he had some beliefs that were hindering him from achieving the next level. And when we started talking, one of the very money oriented at the beginning, many of our clients have unfortunately negative beliefs against money, and it's one of the reasons why they haven't achieved wealth, they haven't achieved business prosperity and things like that. Connor was no different in my mind. And he came from, his belief system about business came from, whoop, still there? We good?
Yeah,
Sorry. All right. Yeah, he came from kind of like a family oriented thing, where he learned a lot about business by what his dad did. And that was a very similar situation to me. My dad used to be a business owner, and that's how I kind of got into that role. And so we already kind of had that going. And these limiting beliefs were stopping him. We went to work right away. I had to challenge him on I am statements. And we talk about how kumbaya or hokey pokey I am statements can sound, right? And you got to be like, and you can't, I don't want to be like, I am statements work, do them. We're not robots here. We got to be like, okay, listen, there's a chance that you might think this is hokey pokey, but do me a favor. Let's just do it anyway for fun. And let's just see what happens in 3 months or 4 months. And he started doing I am statements as well as some other things. And each one of our conversations, I challenged his beliefs on every call. I challenged him to think of new ways or new ideas on how he could believe something different about money specifically and about his ability to handle a larger company. Since working with Connor last year, he's grown his profit by 700%. It is an unbelievable change. This kid, this young adult is going to crush the industry. And he's just one of many clients that I have like that because of belief. Truly, that's what I think.
Amazing story. Congratulations to you and Connor. I think, it's interesting, we do have a perception that the I am statements and some of the things we do in the personal development world is a bit woo-woo, but there is science to back it up. Like I am statements in terms of programming your subconscious to believe it, because your conscious, the version of yourself, doesn't believe it. But
that's 100%.
There is science to back it up. Not so woo-woo.
Michelle, I smoked cigarettes for 19 years. I smoked 2.5 packs.
Like something else, but
cigarettes. Okay. I smoked cigarettes for 19 years, 2.5 packs a day. And because I did, you remember I told you the affirmation statement that I said I am one of the world's leading inspirational speakers? Back then, 4 months before I escaped smoking, I wrote, I am a non-smoker. I am a non-smoker. And I wrote that over and over again. The day that I stopped smoking was the easiest thing I ever did. There was zero mental clutter. There was no withdrawal symptoms. And I haven't picked up anything since. This was huge. When I learned that, I was like, magic is real. Magic is real. What am I going to do? I want more magic. That was amazing. It was powerful for me.
You could apply that to anything in your life.
Anything. I really am going to be one of the world's leading inspirational speakers.
You are already.
That's awesome.
Appreciate so Gabe, that. Belief, let's kind of talk about that a little bit more. Where does that come from, the beliefs that we have?
Originally, gosh, nurture. It comes from your experiences, your environment, how you've been taught, who you've been taught by, who you haven't been taught by. And like in my case, I wasn't surrounded by mentors. And not to any fault of my parents or anything like that. I just didn't have the access to mentorship like some people do. Most people don't really, but some people do. I had to find that for myself. And it came with great change, right? So if beliefs come from our environment or our past, really the only way to tackle them is maybe to revisit how you saw them when you were young, compared to how you see them today. Because today I'm a very different person than back then. Thank God.
And
I
so
was kind of an idiot.
you mentioned earlier, your vision or your mission for your construction business was to build great people.
We build people.
We build great people. So a construction company building great people, how is that kind of connected?
It's not connected at all, which is why it was one of the reasons why it probably didn't work, is because I didn't believe that it could be connected to construction. And so it worked, but it didn't work to the capacity that I thought it would. But I will tell you this, Michelle, I had to let some people go because of certain rules being broken, drugs or something else. And I would receive from 3 different employees, previous employees that actually fired. I received messages from them months later thanking me for their experience while working with me. That reinforced the living crap out of what I was doing. And I knew that whatever it was going to be, it was in that field somehow. I had to get into that, because that melted me from top to bottom.
It is one of the hardest things as a business owner to let people go.
Yeah.
What are some of the questions that you ask yourself, or what's something that can help business owners listening to kind of determine if they have the right people on the team?
Well, it
Apart from
starts
results.
before they get on. What's that?
Apart from results, obviously.
Yeah. I think honestly, results would be commonplace now. So any type of KPIs or goals that they're not meeting or achieving, we need to analyze that. And then, in my opinion, we coach them first. You got in bed with this employee, coach them first. See if we can't get them to a place where they're actually achieving. If they become uncoachable, if they get to that point, you've coached them, you put 30 days in, you put 60 days in, or whatever that looks like, then there comes a point you got to let them go. And if you hang on to them, you're not just costing your business money, but you're also costing all the other employees that you're working with their effort, because they have to deal with this situation too. And so that's just going to reduce productivity. It's going to reduce everything. And so for me, it's get on the front end of employees, right? That's hiring, recruitment. If you have a solid recruitment plan in place, the chance of you having heavy management on the back end is going to be small. And so we want to make sure that we recruit well at the beginning, go through the steps, create that system, go a little bit slower, double check, second guess yourself, and then we'll bring in the right people that way. And pay for good employees. Come on.
And Gabe, what do you think is the reason that those employees who left are thanking you?
I think it's because that I actually truly cared about them. I actually cared that they got better. I challenged them on their skills every day. I challenged them to think differently every day. And I think that by the time they were done working with me, they were given the ability to see through more perspectives than probably their entire life, just by being asked questions, provocative questions, inquisitive questions that got them to contemplate. And, when you dive into your own brain and see what's kind of rummaging around in there, sometimes you're like, whoa, I could be different. I could be better. Maybe I can help more people, but I got to help myself first. And so I think I helped them with that. I hope that's the case. At least that's what they said.
Adversity is, one of these things that nearly everybody experiences in life. And, to your story that you've shared and the journey that you've been through, whether it's in business or personal, it's always personal. When it comes to building that resilience muscle and overcoming adversity, what advice would you give business owners or anyone?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I think there's 4 levels. This is something I kind of been working on. I think there's 4 levels to kind of like appreciating reality. And I think the first level you tie this into emotional intelligence, emotional maturity, those things. And I think the first level is resistance. I think that as we grow up, we pretty much just resist reality on all levels, especially if it's painful. And we're just like, no, this can't happen. This isn't me. And every time we resist it, whatever's happening is going to happen, whether you resist it or not. So it always just kind of like just plows through you, and you end up damaged and broken on the other end of this thing because you resisted. So to me, that's level one. Level two is acceptance. Okay, so now I start accepting things. So it happened. It's raining. All right, fine, it's raining. I'm just going to get through my day. Accepting. There's no good or bad to acceptance. You're just letting it go through you, which I think is incredibly important. And I also think that is a high achievement when you get to that point. But to me, there's a level three, and that's gratitude. Gratitude for everything. I get to be a pilot after my son passed. One of the things that I ended up doing is I ended up going and getting my pilot's license, and now I get to be a pilot. And because I embedded that gratitude in me so much, we had an incident where we were on the ground, and I was with my flight instructor. My flight instructor went up to the engine, and he's checking the engine. He's looking at it, and I'm inside the cockpit. And he says, flip the master switch on. And I'm like, okay. So I flip the master switch on. He's like, shut it off. Shut it off. And I'm like, click. And I'm like, what's up? Everything okay? And he's like, the engine just caught fire. And I was like, I'm so happy that happened. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, that could have happened while we were in the air. We're on the ground. So, being able to kind of like get to that gratitude level just like that. And we didn't fly that day. And I could have been kind of upset that we weren't going to go flying and stuff. And for whatever reason, I had just graduated to whatever that point was where I'm on gratitude level now on almost most things. And I think that when it comes to adversity, like you were saying, the easiest way, in my opinion, to get through adversity is to turn every single one of those instances into an opportunity for learning or something to take away from it. That's where the gratitude comes in. And I get something from every single thing that happens in this world. You cannot take that from me because it's my mind making it happen, not the events. I think there's a fourth level.
Yeah. Well, before you get to the fourth level,
Yeah.
that third level, it takes such kind of practice to really, when you go through something tragic, the levels of grief that you have, whether it's in your case, a loss of somebody, or it could be an illness, whatever it might be, losing a business as an example, whatever it is, that how hard it can be to reframe that as a opportunity to learn or gratitude or in that moment.
Yeah. Especially when you're in the fire, right? When you're in the fire, it's very difficult to not be burning, right? And so for me, it was the practice. I do a gratitude journal in the morning and in the evening. And that's only just to refresh my mind twice a day. Hey, you like gratitude. Hey, you like gratitude, over and over and over again. And then when these moments happen, it's not very difficult for me to go straight to gratitude. And I'm not superhuman. This is just practice. There's nothing to be about superhuman or anything like that. I'm not better than anybody else. Matter of fact, probably a lot dumber than a lot of people. But that's not the point. The point is I practiced it. And now I'm at a level where the practice is paying off. It's compounded.
Self-leadership.
Self-leadership.
Okay, right. Level 4. What's your level 4?
So I haven't fleshed this one out, but I think level 4 is honor. I think level 4 is not just being grateful, but I think it's honoring the fact that honoring the event, honoring whatever it happened, which follows gratitudes precedes gratitude. So I think that if I'm able to honor it, I think that's above gratitude. Like I said, I haven't really fleshed that one out. It kind of came to me about a month and a half ago. I was thinking about it. And anyway.
Yeah. When you think about the valley of death that you go through, it's the Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. There is, you can come out the other side. It's just take that one more step, to come out the other side of that. And yeah, I love step 4. That's great.
I don't know yet.
I like it. Gabe, gosh, talk about grab the tissues for this episode. Thank you for the sharing and belief is a big one, belief for people in themselves. And often that can't happen on your own, even with the self-leadership stuff, the coach that questions the thinking, that helps you overcome the limiting beliefs and is so powerful. Have you got any other examples of where that's been really effective with a client that you've worked with?
Yeah, I think so. I think that I would almost say that all of my clients know that I focus on challenging their current beliefs on things. I've developed myself into a high C. I never was a high C. For anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about, that's the DISC assessment. There's DIC. I've been able to, and the goal is high disc, right? We all want to be high disc, like nice and even across the board. And I've developed myself, I suppose, to the point where the last time I checked, I was a DCI, straight across, even Steven, and I had a little low S on it. And so I think that my clients would say that I've helped them the most in believing that they can do things, but it comes with absolute logic, statistics, results, and we're tracking KPIs. We've got systems in place where we monitor their finances once a month. We go through financial reporting, but all of that's it's backed by belief and encouragement from their coach. Encouragement that they can do it, that they've got what it takes. And I think a good coach has both of those. They've got the smarts to be able to put the business in order, but then they've got that backup energy for encouragement to help them, take some of mine, I got some extra, let's pump it up a little bit. I think they would all say that.
Well, you certainly have for me today.
Killer.
So, Gabe, 3 questions for you. Who has been the kind of best mentor or coach for you?
Jim Rohn, hands down. He was one of the first that I absolutely fell in love with, and I never got to meet him, but he very much dominates my life. And unfortunately, I don't have too many mentors personally. I've got inside of our system, David Drulo's my master licensee, and Andy O'Brien is a great friend and a good coach to me. And both of them have been integral to maybe keeping me lined up, keeping me on the tracks, like when I need to be. So for just kind of real people. And then honestly, every other author and speaker out there combined, really, because a lot of them are delivering the same message, but maybe in a different way. And I love all of that. Who I have become. I used to be a roofer, Michelle. So that's where I started. I mean, it was started maybe at McDonald's, but roofer was my thing. And that was my dream, was to be a roofer. That was my dream. I was like, I want to be a good roofer. And then where I am today is not to say anything about roofers. I have mad respect. I got my work ethic from that. But and I was poor. We were on food stamps. It's been a rough road, a lot of challenge. So.
And favorite book that you've read?
So the book that I read that was the catalyst of my change was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I listened to it on Audible while I was working, and I didn't know content like that existed. And the moment that I knew it, it literally became my road, the path that I was going to travel, and it's led me here today.
How did you come across that book?
You're asking good questions. So I wanted to get back into reading, and I'm a fantasy novel reader. I like reading about medieval fantasy, swords, dragons, magic, things like that. And I was like, I really want to get back into reading. I watched too many movies. I used to want to be an actor. I owned a videography company, and I wanted to get back into reading. So I was talking to a friend of ours, and they're like, well, why don't you just listen to a book? And I'm like, okay, like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, just give you got Audible? We just use Audible. And I'm like, well, no, like, what's Audible? And so there I am. I'm like, Audible, blah, 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 $14 a month. I'm like, I'm in. And I actually downloaded 2 books. I downloaded one, which was the Wheel of Time series for all you nerds out there, the Wheel of Time series. Okay. That was my fantasy book that I love the series. And I also downloaded The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And I listened to both of them. And when I listened to The Art of War, it was like, oh, wait a minute. This is pretty good. And that's when I got 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And then that one just like literally just like it flipped a switch in me. And it was profound. I still remember listening to it like the second and third time. I think I listened to it like 4 times at the beginning. And I'm actually literally today, it's the book that I'm reading. So now today, to get 46 books a year, I read and I also listen. I do Windshield University in the car and I listen. So I'm listening to a book, but I'm reading 7 Habits again right now. And I haven't read it in a few years, I think. So I'm just trying to get it back.
Best piece of advice you ever received?
Things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And it's up to you on how you look at it. Period. The same event can happen to 2 different people, and they will have 2 different stories on how that event transpired. And so that just tells me I'm in control. And that feels so good. So good.
Gabe Moore, thank you for sharing your journey, for inspiring us today.
Yeah.
Great to spend time.
Let's go, Michelle. Let's go.
Let's do it. Michelle Adams, your host here. Hats off to you for committing to your learning by listening to this podcast. And if you'd like some help implementing some of these strategies, then click the link in the description to find your local action coach. They can help you put these strategies into action and take your business and your life to the next level. In the meantime, like and subscribe so that you're the first to get our next episode. We'll see you soon.